quite interesting listening to what people say about security. I think we need to have a slight change of focus. How do you categorise the threats that you're going to hit? Are they internal or external? Are they people coming at you because they want to stop you doing something? Or are they coming at you because they want to find out something about you? Get some insider information. Research shows, don't you love that phrase, 65% of all reported security breaches are internal. So you're spending millions guarding against cyber attacks from outside when 65% of the problem is inside. It's people taking USB sticks home, people who email themselves sensitive documents and actually forget that they're signed into an account somewhere in an internet cafe that somebody else has been using and has just stolen their account information. Or that they've walked away from and they've forgotten to lock the screen and they've left the screen up there and people can view it. Of the insider problem, people can put quantities against it. So of the respondents of a specific survey, people talk about $500,000 in terms of money that they've actually lost. Now, given that a lot of people don't even respond to surveys, and some people can't be bothered putting in a value, that's still a very large figure. So what we need to do is actually look at what we're doing to control systems internally. So, we talk about what should be seen. What's my job? I'm the head of product innovation and strategy. Great title, not so sure about the job. So what should I be able to see? I should be able to see the new product set. I should be able to see the roadmaps. I should be able to affect them. Where from? Well, where's my office? I don't have one. So I'm based somewhere. So I should be able to see it from the back here. But should I be able to use that on my phone, my laptop, my tablet, my iPad, somebody else's iPad? In fact, that iPad there that I've just borrowed from somebody and I've signed into, and oh, I've forgotten to sign out. What do I do? Why do I want to see it? Is it because I'm just interested, or is it actually part of my job? Why am I doing that? What with? Am I using a browser? If I am, which one? Is it IE? Is it IE6? Anybody here from the NHS? No, that's useful. The NHS have some brilliant applications that only work with IE6. What are we on now? 10? So, what are the vulnerabilities of IE6 that they're still having to cope with? And who am I? What gives me the right to go and see that data in the first place? And how do I prove it? So let's look at the companies you've got. Hundreds of staff, potentially thousands. Anybody from BT? No? Yep. 110,000 staff. I don't know how many contractors. We've got some guys at the back from IBM, slightly bigger than BT. Some guys from Dell, catching IBM. Anybody here from the Chinese, what are they called? Yeah, the military department, the army. Largest employer in the world, yeah, we've got one, okay. 6 billion people, a bit of a challenge. Potentially large numbers of non-working staff. So that's people who don't actually work for you, the contract agencies. Talking about the NHS, it's the bank nurses, the visiting staff. Have you ever been to a hospital and been seen by a junior doctor? You know they don't actually work for the trust. They don't actually get paid by the trust. They have nothing to do with the trust. They're actually paid by the university. It's quite interesting. So how do they get access to the systems? How does that work? They need access to hosted systems, whether they're in the cloud, private cloud, data center, somewhere else. Interesting contact earlier on saying data in the EU. How can you prove that your data's in the EU? Microsoft have this great system that they use in Dublin where they hold everybody's email for almost every single university in the country. Is it in Dublin? Are you sure it's in Dublin? Can you prove it? What happens if the Dublin data centre goes down? They have a 99.9% availability. Where's the data? Dublin's down. Is the data in Holland or is it in Washington? If it's in Washington, does that mean it's subject to the Patriot Act? If it's subject to the Patriot Act, who owns it? Interesting. So we need to know lots about IT systems, who the user is, what they can gain access to, how they gain access. I am talking quickly because I do have 67 slides. New staff. How many times do you have somebody who turns up, get sent to the office on their first day, they go into HR, they have their induction, they hand over the paperwork, they get shown to their desk and said, here's your PC, and they go, thanks. Can I have an ID? No, because IT haven't done that yet. Oh, okay. When will that be? It's usually about 3 weeks. Okay, so what am I going to do for 3 weeks? Well, tea. Tea would be good. He'll have a coffee, and there's a donut run. It's about 11 o'clock. Yeah, okay, I'm being a little silly. But Virgin Media had a general term of 4 weeks for an IT system request to be actually completed. 4 weeks. Turnover in a call centre is 70% annually. 7,000 staff. So they're losing basically 5,000 staff every year, taking 4 weeks to generate a new account. That's a lot of lost time. How do you make sure that somebody's completed their training before you actually give them access to the systems? That's an interesting one as well. Are your systems linked? Can you prove that the guy who went on the training course actually is the same guy who's actually logging in on the workstation and using the systems? Difficult. How do you provision the accounts into the cloud? Do you provision everybody, or do you limit it and have just the people you want? Who defines their access? Anybody here got people who work for them? Yeah? People who actually respond to them? I get requests all the time. Please, can I have access to the finance systems? Of course you can. Is that my job? Am I head of finance? So who defines what my guys can get access to? Is it me? Is it the head of finance? Is it HR? No. Does the department have to be involved? Or actually, does the department sort of state what these people are going to do? Let's take an example. I work for finance. Should I have access to the finance systems? That'd probably be a good idea, given that that's my job, is updating these systems. I work for IT. Should I have access to the finance systems? No. Well, that's easy, isn't it? So let's make sure that the finance people are in finance and can gain access, and the IT people can gain access to ADUC, Active Directory users' computers, and create IDs. That's all we need. HR people work in HR. They don't need access to Active Directory, do they? No, that's fine. But who defines the status? Who actually sets these things up? Who says that HR need access to HR? Don't tell me it's common sense, because common sense is not compliancy. So if we talk about what we had earlier, where compliancy is all, you have to have defined what your HR people can do in HR, what your finance people can do in finance, and so on, and so on. It's a never-ending story. Did a piece of work with BT about 8 years ago on roles within BT. They have 110,000 staff. We started looking at roles. When we got to 300,000 roles, we stopped because it didn't make sense. It's the wrong way to look at it. So actually defining roles can be a challenge. So what do we mean by identity management? Oh, this is a horrid one. I hate this slide. It says the right thing, but it doesn't really get it across. This basically says you need to give the right people the right access to the right systems at the right times. It's what Microsoft call a trusted layer of identity. That's what it says in the bottom right left-hand corner, just so small that guys at the back can't see it. Identity management is really about automated provisioning of an account. Creating of an account when somebody needs it in a manner that it's easy to use. So when I start on day one, I go in and they say, oh, you're David Guest. Right, here's your email address. Log in. Oh, and your password is actually your surname spelt backwards. Okay, I can log in. Oh, I've got to change my password. First thing that happens, got to do that. But I'm productive on day one. Can I get into my email? Yes. Can I get into my calendar? Yes. Is it all working? So what do you do about securing your systems? Well, we've got two types of user here. Now these two types of user, internal and external, what do we mean by that? Does that mean, in effect, this guy here who's external, does it mean he doesn't work for us, or does it mean he's somewhere else? In my case, it probably means I'm somewhere else. I'm sitting at home over my broadband, with or without a VPN, because I may or may not have one. Internal, yes, they're inside. But what if I'm using my own device? So sitting somewhere in a case here, I've got a slate, Windows 8, it's mine, not the company's, but I use it to access my email. Now, am I internal or external now? I sign in to the system. I use my identity, and it allows me to gain access to the various systems that I need, whether those be web services, directory servers, whatever I'm using. Great, everything's approved because I'm inside. If I'm outside though, sorry, let this build up properly. If I'm outside, I need to go through a layer of security. Now earlier on we had the guy from Dell talking about their system which allows you to control what people can gain access to. And actually it's great at filtering out the websites. But we need to do it both ways. It's not just a matter of allowing the inside people to go out and look at a website like Facebook and say, I'm sorry, but you're not having that because it's not lunchtime. What happens if you're outside and you try to get in to a secured system on the inside? You need an access management system that actually says you can't do that because you're outside. You're not on an approved PC. And nicely, the Dell system does both ways, which is good. Again, we need to authenticate and we need to gain access to the specific systems that we need. So in this case, a web service and email, and possibly the wireless network because it's my own device and I'm not allowed to plug it in. So all of that should give us a set of rules. So we can talk about endpoint protection. When I plug this USB in, what happens to it? Anybody ever heard the story of the guy who plugged his brand new iPod into the USB at the office because he wanted to charge it? And they had a nice little bit of code that sat monitoring the USB. And it said, any unencrypted device, format. Really works well. Configuration, authentication and authorization people to gain access to the bits that they actually want. 2, make sure we don't get denial of service attacks. 2, access our directory in real time so that only people who are actually in it can be seen. And only people who are in it are the ones who should be in it. Update the server, making sure it's always patched. Well, when I say always patched, if Microsoft release a patch that actually kills your software, you don't really want to apply it, and they do that occasionally. We need to make sure we've got the antivirus, anti-spam, anti-malware, anti-botnet. Basically, the best thing to do, never connect your PC to a network. In fact, throw away the keyboard, then it'll be secure. Make sure we can do application deployment. Think about virtualization. If you really want to make sure your data never leaves the premises, virtualize it. Virtualized desktop, accessing some data on a local server, it's never going to leave. People access it from wherever they are, and as long as they close down the browser properly at the end, it's nice and secure. So how do we do that? Who can define the people who should exist within an organization? Let's say more than 10 employees. If you've got more than 10 employees, you really need an HR. If you've got an HR, you've got a source of data. So we can link an HR system to your file and print and to your email, very simply. Take an extract of one, push it into the other one. If the dates match, you're allowed in. If the dates don't match, you're taken out. It's a very simple model. Don't know of any software that actually does that directly from HR straight into email and straight into file and print, but you can always put something in the middle and get it right. You can then also take it outside and you can say, I'm going to use this to talk to my CRM systems, to my applications, to file and print. And I'm going to do it based on business rules. Because you're in finance, I add you to the finance system. Because you're an employee who's not a cleaner, I'll put you in the email system. If you're a cleaner, I'll give you access to the broom closet. Yes, I'm being facetious, but I do know customers who go that far, especially when they've got proximity cards so that they can actually open the broom closet. The business rules then say where we can put the accounts, what information we can do to it, and how it'll all work, and actually provision accounts quickly and optimally. We can audit them. It goes back to compliance. Why does this person have access to this system? Who said they could have it? We can then add in workflow. I'd like access, please. Who approves it? And we can again make sure that that gets audited and checked. Password self-service. biggest bone of contention in identity management is passwords. Everybody tells you that an identity management system will solve your password problems. It doesn't, because people can't be bothered filling in the questions and answers in order to go and reset their own password, so they still phone the help desk. But all IDM systems will come with an element of password self-service. If you do it well, it works brilliantly. If you do it badly, just don't go there. What do you do about contractors? We've mentioned BT, Virgin Media, the NHS. Everybody has contractors. People who come into the business to do a specific job. I am a contractor. I go into organisations and help them with their IT. And while I'm helping with the IT, I need to sign on to their network so I can gain access to the internet, so I can read my email, which is hosted by Microsoft somewhere in Dublin-ish, I think. Who creates my account? Who makes sure that my account is valid? When is it deprovisioned? And that's the key here, is deprovisioning. How do I make sure that when the employee who I've just fired, because he's been very naughty, when he gets home, how do I stop him logging in remotely and pulling my customer data down? How do I stop him, even if I've reset his password, phoning his mate on the help desk to say, can you just enable my account please, because I need to just access something? His mate doesn't know he's been sacked. So how do we do that? What you need to do with contractors is add in another authoritative source. Something else, another database, another application, or if you're really lucky and your HR team will accept the fact that they're going to be creating 50% more accounts every year, you can get them to do it as well. Getting your HR team to do that might be a bit of a challenge. You add single sign-on. Great, I've signed onto my workstation. I'm now going to go into the finance system. Oh, did I see a screen that pops up saying ID and password? Yeah. Is it the same ID and password? Yes, it is. That means I've broken one, I've broken them all. So I can now gain access to every single system because I know the one ID and password. Does that work? Well, that's the way a lot of people are going. Websites these days, where you've got Active Directory involved, are using Kerberos as an authentication mechanism. So I sign onto my workstation, I then go into the finance website. I get single sign-on. I'm in. I walk away from my workstation. Oh, I forgot to lock it. Somebody else comes up and what access have they got? Mine. Identity management won't help you that, but your policies should. But identity management will make sure that the accounts have the right access. You need to think about other pieces. I've got so many of these bits of plastic these days. Smart cards, proximity cards. Anybody ever done any experimentation with biometrics? Yes? Retina scans, fingerprint readers, all kinds of things. Anybody do any DIY? You know, laying slabs? Wear gloves. If you don't wear gloves, you have no fingerprints. If you don't have fingerprints, you can't log in. Actually happened to me. Did you know some people have fingerprints that can't be read? Yeah? My brother works in the police. He has fingerprints that can't be read. They use him to teach people how to take fingerprints. And the way they have to do it is add Vaseline to his finger before they take the print to puff up the ridges. I had a footballing injury last October. Left eye, got hit by a football, damaged the retina. Retina scan stops working. How do I gain access to my systems? But it's my system, I need access. So biometrics may be a good way around to some extent, but not every time. Smart cards, great way to get access. Can I put my smart card next to my iPad and gain access to my system? Again, something you need to consider. The NHS have a problem with that at the moment, in that they can't do it, and most of their systems these days require smart cards. Deprovisioning. Make sure people get no access when they leave. Universities have a problem with this, which is a bit of a shame, because they have people who stay around forever. They're called alumni. I get to be alumni for at least one university, which means I can gain access to their systems, but I don't work there. I'm not even a student there, but they need to get money out of me, so I'm an alumni. Does that mean I actually need to be on all of their systems? How do they control which ones? So identity management starts to become key. What about data? How many people have got USB sticks actually with them? I've got about 4. So on there, I've got lots of files that I've copied from my network. And when I go home and leave it on the desk, and my son picks it up and plugs it into his, and he goes, "Daddy, what's this file?" That's all the salary details for the whole company. How could he open it? Shouldn't there be security on the file? Don't say password security on a Word document, because we know that doesn't work, or an Excel spreadsheet. It takes me about 5 minutes on the internet to find a grabber for the passwords. Rights management is the way to go. Rights management will only work if you have full PKI. If you have full PKI, you've spent a lot of money on it, but who controls the PKI? And by the way, you've now got to publish your CRLs, and if you're publishing your CRLs, that makes it basically available to other people. Bit of a challenge. So again, things to think about. And if you do rights management, which is a great way of protecting your own data, did you know that Microsoft's rights management only works with Microsoft products? So if you want somebody else's, you need to buy somebody else's rights management as well, which is a bit of a challenge. Oh, there you go, 20 minutes on the button. Any questions? Dead silence, this is what I like. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Andy.